sit on some cash. You can take your time. You don't have to buy a deal. It's what we do, but watch the stock market. It's not, I don't feel that, you can't fight the Fed down and you can't fight the Fed up, but there's always deals out there. You just have to work a little bit harder, but don't give up all your cash. Make sure you have a good amount of cash on the side, 30%, somewhere in there to be careful, because I don't think we're through this yet. But I'm doing a $4 million loan to somebody, but I'm making sure there's a cushion there.
Here's the one. I have a dream.
With great power comes great responsibility.
I could do this all day.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
Cinderella story out of nowhere.
It's in the hole. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Welcome back to Capital Hacking. This is your buddy Josh and John Edwin. Hey, what's up, guys? I had to hold the mic in front of them in case you're watching this. So today's episode is one of those episodes for the generational ages. We've had to wait hundreds of episodes to meet Steve Lloyd. We've been talking about him. You and I both know Steve Lloyd's name has been used many times in the annals of Capital Hacking. Today's show is no letdown here. No. And Steve's a very good friend of mine, very good friend of Josh's. So it was a pleasure not just to have a conversation with him, but a conversation that's going to impact everyone listening right now. Definitely recommend listen to the end, because there is so much wisdom throughout this episode. In the beginning, Steve talks about entrepreneurs, how we have to adapt or die. Don't be afraid to let go. And also talked about when you start your business, entrepreneurs always want things to take off immediately, but you have to be very intentional. And it takes on average 6 years for a business to go the direction you want it to go. Yeah, Steve, if you're really good, if you're a very good Tesla driver listener, you're going to hear at the end, Steve's going to give you his predictions on the economy, how he prospects deals, his feeling about cash. You're going to want to hear that.
Yeah.
He talks about the position he's in with cash. And ultimately, this is the show that really defines human capital and defines capital hacking. As we always say, listen, it starts with him in a pizzeria, slinging pizzas, and it goes all the way to him running a $300 million business with incredible track record, wonderful people, and his whole contribution back.
What an incredible episode. Tune in, enjoy, hit the like, follow. Let's go.
Welcome back.
So man, it's great. He's over 100 years old. It's a mob wall, and we're a couple good fellas right here.
Yeah, we're in your favorite winery resort, buddy. We're at the Renault Winery right now.
Josh, you can come back anytime. Edwin's tough. John's tough because he makes me do like 100 push-ups every time I see him when he visits me. So if I see him in the morning, I got to do 100 push-ups. If I see him at dinner, I got to do 100 push-ups. So, it's rough hanging out with this guy.
Is that ironic that I just said the same thing to him? Now, he doesn't make me do the push-ups, but I know he wants me to. So that already intimidates me.
Yes.
When we were having lunch, he goes, I don't know, man. I'm a little intimidated here.
The same idea. I'm like, every time I'm better than me, and I don't, it's hard to be around guys that are healthier and better than you. And you're like, man, this guy's got his ass.
Steve's pretty damn healthy. I'll tell you what, you have been an inspiration to all of us, Steve.
Yeah, I've lost some more weight too. So it's been good. But, just real quick, I know you want to get to this, but Josh, you've done an amazing job. I love watching all the videos, to watch you grow since the pandemic. You had to go into a horrible situation. And, the leadership that I see that you put out there is I should be interviewing you. I mean, you talk about a leader, the circle that you're in and what you created down up at Renault, and now you're on Ken Island. It's just, I feel like I just know you so much more as a person, a man. I mean, I'm really proud of you. You're just inspiring. The only person, I know hundreds and thousands of people, but this guy shoots me a text message. He sends me videos, inspiring. I don't think there's anybody thinking of me at 5:30 in the morning except John Edwin. Right. I'll take you. Saying that, man, come on, we got to go run 5 miles. We got to go 100 push-ups, better eat right. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm like, I just got out of bed and I got to see this shit. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I got the guilt being thrown at me. So you guys are amazing friends, and I'm glad to be here.
Steve, it's an honor that you complimented both of us, but I do agree with you. This guy is a motivational speaker on steroids here. Well, actually, not steroids because those are PEDs.
PEDs. I'm not on any.
You're anti-PED.
Some anti-PEDs.
I know you are. I know you are. So we invited you to be on the big show, Mr. Lloyd, and we waited 250 episodes into this to invite you. Why? Because we wanted to get 249 people out of the way, wonderful people, so that we could bring the granddaddy storyteller and life journey guy and living the best life guy and the boat guy and the mastermind guy, the Siesta Key guy, all the different monikers we could give you, the Stone Bay Holdings guy. But before we get into all the cool stuff, can you just tell us, for those of us who are listening to this banter but haven't met you yet, how would you describe yourself to this wonderful audience?
Caring, giving person that wants to motivate people to get through their struggles and live their best life. I try to help as many people as I can. There's the being a part of an entrepreneur is about giving, even when I didn't create the life I have. And it's not about wealth or money, but the lifestyle that it's when I was broke, when I really didn't have a life 10 and 12 and 13 years ago, when I went through a really bad lull, like we all go through, I was still caring, giving, and I'll help anybody that's willing to help themselves and put an effort into it. So, integrity. I hope people look at me for integrity. A lot of guys call me that are successful guys that, get down. And I go, look, just get down. It's how fast you get back up. I mean, that's the key. So just, I think I'm a loving, caring teddy bear.
And you're a
But I'm not pissed off.
Very
Loving, caring teddy bear when I'm not pissed off.
And the beautiful thing about you, Steve, is that you named your boat My Best Life, but then you started inviting, like you moved down to Siesta Key during the pandemic all by yourself. And then you started inviting all of your friends to join your best life. And you've named your new boat Our Best Life.
Yeah.
So, which is amazing.
I kind of went through a guilt. I was stuck here alone by myself, I knew one person when I got stuck here during COVID. I was here to check on my properties that I just started coming to. I took over from other people and, I got stuck here. And it's something that I needed. I'm an enabler, want to solve the world, but I wasn't concentrating on my health, my lifestyle. People would ask me if I had hobbies. I'm like, the only hobby I know is raising capital and buying assets, right? I really didn't have a true, well-rounded life. And it could, I'm a very emotional guy. And to be on an island such as nice Siesta Key, but in lockdown with not knowing anybody, being at my places by myself, you say that, but to the flip side, it was the best thing because I was able to concentrate on Steve. I went and bought a bike. I started biking 34 miles a day. You know how many times I've struggled. I'd lose 8 pounds. I'd put 10 back on. I'd lose 8 pounds and you'd send me a text. But, this time I said, what? I'm here by myself. I don't have to concentrate on anybody else. And I believe that's very important for an entrepreneur. You need to concentrate on yourself. You need to figure out who you are, what you're about, what your intentions are, who you're going to surround yourself, who's going to be in your circle. I let so many people go, friends that I've been friends with for 10 and 15 years that were really toxic. And you go, oh, well, you can't let them down. Oh, yes, you can. If they're not willing to come along to the journey, and I call the words fair exchange, we have to have fair exchange in our life. And I took that 35 days and, I'll be honest with you, I went grocery shopping when I first got here and it was the brownies, it was the steaks, it was the Uncle Ben's mashed potatoes, and it was all the things that were yummy, right? And, I ballooned up to I guess I was about 295. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I started biking 30, 40 miles a day. And I literally lost, I think 35 pounds right around 35 days. And then I said, that's where my best life came from. And I decided to stay here and it struggled because my greatest person in my life is Carrie Fakes. And I remember the phone call when I biked down to the south end of the key and 2 dolphins came out of the water and ospreys flying around. And I'm like, I just don't want to go back. My mom lived with me for 10 years. She passed away 10 years ago. I had I went through a divorce and, I had a restart. I was anti going back to Westchester, which is a beautiful, gorgeous area, many memories. But I was like, this is my fresh start. And then the number one person in my life, Carrie Fakes, who's my everything, right? There's nobody that cut before Carrie because she was the one 10 years ago that didn't leave me when I was in another traumatic time, the most traumatic time of my life. We're going to talk about that later, but she's like, she didn't talk to me for a month and a half. And here I am okay, normally I would say, I'm coming back to Philadelphia. I don't want you to be upset with me. But I was like, I got to stay here, but I'm going to create something amazing. And that's what I concentrate, intentional of creating something in Sarasota that was amazing. And it turned into this catastrophic event of COVID, putting out there, people were suffering around the country. And I used to do network marketing and public speaking. I knew so many people. I just kidding around. I said, hey, if anyone will come and cut my hair, because we couldn't get our haircuts, right? I look like Ronald McDonald, right? A skinny Ronald McDonald, right? I don't eat at McDonald's anymore, but I was like,
and your haircut.
Yeah. 2 nights for free, and it went viral. And then next thing you know, I got 30, 40 people staying in my properties, and it was the best summer I ever had. And, adapt or die. Adapt or die. That's what we are as entrepreneurs. We either adapt or we die. There's no cycle that lasts 50 years, right? Our life goes in cycles. We have to adapt or we go through this struggle. But, what the pain I was going through here by myself. And now I look back on my whole life, every struggle is telling you something. You entrepreneurs out there, when you're getting a struggle or something's bad, don't be scared to let go. I let go of my life back in Pennsylvania and Westchester, friends, the restaurants I went to, the normal stuff, the in the box every weekend stuff. And I told Carrie, I'm going to create something here for us. And I said, just leaders lead and they will follow. Don't be scared, because if you're a true leader in your heart and in your soul, get out there and do it and be an example and show people that can be done, and people will follow. Not all entrepreneurs are leaders, but they listen, but they will follow. Oh. And I had 30, 40 people here. Then the next thing you know, a month and a half, I called Carrie. I'm like, oh, we need to sell everything. I just can't do this anymore. We're falling apart. And I said, but we could move the business here, which we were on Microsoft Teams. There was nothing to move. It's just like, that's a great idea. I'm coming. And, and she came, and it was a traumatic between me and her, right? So because of the emotion, she didn't leave the house for 2 months. She was 4 kids in her life. Her husband wasn't working. He was, he's introvert, which is good. I got introverts all around me, but he wasn't working. They were all cooped up and all this tension. And Carrie comes and she ends up coming for 2 months. We buy 2 weight runners and we're chasing dolphins, baby. And it turned into this, our friends coming and cookouts and the beaches, and it lasted still. You were just here. You were here last year, and then we got the Gladiator, right? And then, all of a sudden I'm like, I never thought I'd live on an island. Let's go buy a boat. So I go buy a boat. I go buy this crazy yacht. I'm living on it. I never owned a boat. And my friends, right? The closest people to me. I'm sorry, I got crazy. You guys got me pumped up.
Let's go, baby.
Still it. People to me are going, you can't buy a boat. You don't know what you're doing. The engine's going to break. How many times? The best day you buy a boat is when you sell it. I had to hear all this shit, right? And I go buy this monstrosity 52-foot.
I was always in support of this, Steve, by the way.
Yeah, because your ass is on it now, right?
Yeah, hold on. That's not fair. Of course.
Always hang out with the guy that bought the boat. Don't buy the boat. Oh, yeah. So I know your angle, Edwin. And so it was this whole transformation, but it was emotional. I try to put out a positive energy, but there was so many lonely nights. There were so many days where, even after I bought my boat, I still didn't know that many people, but laying here on a Friday night with really no friends. You guys don't always see that. I want to tell the story of the success, but I got to tell you the story of the sadness of where I needed strength to get up every day. Even after I bought the boat, you think you buy a yacht, you got this, you live on an island. No, it's not all about that. You got to have a life. You got to have people around you. I do. And there was, through that journey of being in Siesta Key, so many nights alone. I remember, when the pandemic, you're up all day, I was working out, but all I wanted to do, I don't think I was depressed, but it was sad. A lot of you guys you guys were locked up with your families, which can be pros and cons, right? But I was here by myself in an apartment, and you got, these news channels on, and they're trying to put you in depression. So it's been 2 years since I've watched TV, 2 years. I didn't even watch the last 2 Super Bowls. So I'm actually dating pretty cool Colombian now. So she's got me watching this Netflix shit and everything. So I got stuck up in a hurricane. We'll talk about that later, but I had to watch it. just early movie last week. I wasn't sure. It was during the hurricane, so I don't know what was work. The early movie I had to watch or the hurricane I was going through with 90 miles an hour winds right outside my window. But, I don't know about the early movie.
I want to land the ship here because everybody's like holding on for dear life. It's like we're on your boat right now.
We are.
And you got it full tilt and everybody's like turning. We're like,
Yes.
I love this guy. Where are we going on this boat? Let me ask you a couple framing questions so the families and the friends and the thousands listening get to fall in love with you too, Steve. They now already love you because you have boats and you're friendly and you're kind and you want to help people. But that's not, it all began for you the story is awesome. I'm going to paraphrase the Steve Lloyd story just enough so you get pissed off and you take over. But I remember a story from sitting with you and you shared it with me personally. You said, I think it was you owned a pizzeria. You probably worked at the pizzeria. You bought into the pizzeria. You're a pizza guy and you're killing yourself. And someday, one of those days.
And he's driving trucks at night as a union truck driver.
And then one day you say, I'm going to buy a house to rent it out. Where did the story begin and how did it fast track from pizza and union truck driving to an empire?
Greatly.
Yeah. So when I was 8 years old, I had a paper route. Then I started whipping out pans when I was 10. At 12, I was making pizzas. At 16, I was running the place. I actually went to Temple University, played Division I baseball for literally, this school wasn't for me, quit. At 20 years old, I got offered to buy the pizza shop and I bought it. And then a year, we would be open from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And we were doing well. I mean, Kent's Pizza was there for 25 years before I even bought it. So it had the foundation. And then I worked for the Delaware County Daily Times. I took a union truck driving job. My friend worked there. He's like, hey, you can come in at midnight and work till 7 o'clock in the morning. And, but as soon as you get the papers out on the street, you can go home. So yeah, for 12 years, I went from, 3 in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at the pizza shop. And I literally go sleep in the parking lot at the paper company in Primos, Pennsylvania. And my shift would start about 12, quarter after 12. And I got done my shift about 6. I did it all over and I did that for 12 years. And I was in the union. So my only 2 weeks off were the 2 middle weeks of January. And my nights off were Monday night and Tuesday night. Okay. So my friends are out there. I'm 23, 24, 25 years old. I did that for 12 years. My friends are out going out on Friday night. I'm slinging pizzas and throwing papers. That was kind of the foundation. And then we know Dave, he said, Dave was always trying to get me in the real estate. And at like 36, which was kind of late to get in the real estate. I don't know, late, early, I don't know. But he took me to a meeting down in Wilmington, Delaware. And, I knew I didn't want to be in the pizza business anymore. And I knew I didn't want to sling papers anymore, even though the money was good, but I didn't really have a life. So Dave took me to that meeting and I literally came home. I put my pizza shop up for sale. I was having my second house built and I had to stay at the paper company because I need to have job verification before we closed all the loan. So October 15th, 2004 is when I had no job at all. And I went and bought my first rental. In the key years, I got to like 8. I tell this story a lot. What fueled me to what we created today? I remember after about the 8th property, I was sitting there thinking that I had this mortgage and I had, paying the mortgages and I had a husband and wife, which was 16 people that were getting up and going to work for me every day.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I have 16 people that get up every single day to go pay for my debt. How is that possible? Like, why? Okay, now I want 50 people to get up to go to work to pay for my debt. And then, I'm crazy. Then I want 150 people to get up. So today I have about 6,000, I'd say 6,000 or 6,500 people that aren't employees of mine that get up and go to work to pay for my debt. And that's where I bought my first property. In between that time, I went to Temple. But the cool thing is I'm a capital raiser. I don't look for assets. I got pushed in a situation with the downfall of the economy 14 years ago. None of the banks were lending rehab money, but, a guy gave me an idea to pull money off my credit card. Well, I didn't have $100,000 or $200,000 access to my credit card. So I was like, well, wow, let me just go to my best friend, ask him for 50 grand. And then I went to a cousin. Then I went to another friend. And I read the book, The Banker's Code by George Anton.
Whoa.
And The Banker's Code by George Anton. And it's all about leverage. And I was sitting there going, if I can raise money at, say 10%, and I can lend it out at 16%, then every $100,000, I could make $6,000 off somebody else's money. If I could raise $1 million, I could make $60,000 off of investors' money. And that really clicked to me. So, and the banks weren't lending money. So it was great. I learned how to do commercial loans with individual people. And someone would give me $100,000. I had to buy $100,000 property at Temple. It was a $50,000 rehab. I wouldn't even go to the bank. I'd go to these individual people. They would give me 150 grand for the purchase, the rehab. I would put my tenants in there. The parents would co-sign, and I set up just like a normal commercial loan. I would sign the personal guarantees, the whole 9 yards. I did it the right way, because when you do things the right way, it doesn't last long. So I did everything the right way. And these people got addicted to, back then it was 12, 14% interest rates I was giving them because I was just starting out. And then what I do is I would get the project done with their money. I put the tenant in, I get the co-signer for the parents at Temple. And then I would go to the bank and refi. And they were refining me right away because I had cash flow, right, Mr. Wonderful? And they would refi me, and no one else was getting loans because they were all doing it the other way. So I'd pay back my investors, and guess what? My investors are calling me back to give me not only the money they gave me, they want to give me more money. So now today we have like 200 investors. I manage like $100 million. I've probably raised about 350 million. And it's truly surreal, but you have to push it, right? You have got to keep pushing it. So I hope I answered your question.
Fantastic.
I definitely think you did. And to summarize, it's an interesting flip, right? Because many of the listeners here grew up buying buildings using the bigger pockets model, which is you get as much as you can, usually some bank debt, a little bit of borrowed money, and then you go buy a building, fix it up, and try to flip it and sell it, or flip it and burr it, they call it.
Right.
Whereas what I'm hearing you say is you learned from reading the banker code that if you let families who want 10% hand you the money, you'll say, look, we're going to create a business that allows you to have 10% back on your money. Then you went out and created a model where you bought, I think you actually signed the personal guarantees and bought the building. So you are adding collateral to them by your personal guarantees plus the building. Then their promise was give us back 10%. So you honor your promise, but over here, you now bought that building using traditional banking. So that maybe
I would go and get the refi 6 or 7 months later once I had the cash flow, and I would give them first and second position on the property. I created 200 bankers, right? But they don't run your credit. They look at the asset, right? They're looking at the asset. So that's kind of what we did. And then that led on to Stone Bay and the private placement memorandum that, Stone Bay is part of. And that's where we raise our capital now. But I do a mix of things, right? And then, Stone Bay started out as just notes. I was lending a company called PPR through my investors. I was just really making the arbitrage, right? Dave needed money when they started PPR. I actually owned it with Dave, but, I have the same vision, which me and Dave are still close today, but I didn't have the same vision of that. And I walked away from that. They bought me out. And 2 months later, we didn't burn any bridges. They still love me. Maybe I still love them. And they asked me for $4 million. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to create this Stone Bay. I got it from a vision from having a house in Stone Harbor. That's where Stone Bay came from, having a house on the bay in Stone Harbor. That's where Stone Bay came from. Dave needed $4 million. I opened up a Stone Bay. I raised $4 million. I was paying my investors 10%. Dave was paying me 18. I gave him $4 million. I was making an 8% spread. 80. That was my old theory, right? 80 times I was making 320,000. Stone Bay was instantly profitable the second month we were open 10 years ago from the arbitrage. Right? The spread from other people's money. And Dave needed more money and more money. I said, Dave, keep buying notes, man. Keep buying notes. I'll give you more money. But what's really cool, we worked out something where they got the notes reperforming. And then that's how they paid me back. And we still own about $2-3 million of reperforming notes today from back 10 years ago. Because I wanted payment. I didn't want payoffs. I don't like when someone pays me off. I'm not getting paid anymore. So that's where Stone Bay came from. And then we added the pillar of lending capital. I'm getting ready to lend John's money, but you have to be intentional about growing. but you also have to be intentional about being smart and starting out and growing, right? Because so many entrepreneurs go, I'm going to quit this company and I'm going to go start this other company because this one's not working out. Any company you start takes 6 years. I don't care who you talk to. I don't care what bullshit they give you. It takes time to develop. And I'm talking about really creating something here. And that's where we went into the private money. And I used to lend 300. My last private loan was 8 million. Private loan I did last month was 7.7 million. I'm getting ready to do a $4 million private loan for someone. So bigger grower people, when I see people go buy real estate, I go, why are you buying an $80,000 property? My last property I bought was 75 million, right? That sounds surreal, right? I started out with $100,000 property, 80, then I went to 200, then I went to 500. I grew, but I wasn't going to stay in the $300,000 to $500,000 range. My next goal was to buy $100 million property. And I promise you, I will buy $100 million property, and then we got into apartment buildings and mobile home parks. So I keep pushing the dream. I keep pushing that business. Where are we going to next? Have the vision, with Carrie, she takes care of the books and the accounting. And I'm already into 2023. I mean, we've got a couple deals, but I'm looking about what I'm going to do. What is the plan for 2023? Because I'm the visionary. Carrie has to take care of the here and the now with the accounting and the everyday operation. But I'm already looking forward to next year, 2023.
So Steve, what do you do as far as when you're setting goals? How often do you set goals? How specific and measurable do you make them? Because what I'm hearing, in 2004, you bought your first property. We're in 2022. You've raised hundreds of millions of dollars and you're doing exceptionally well. And you've grown it and scaled it very quickly. It doesn't sound very fast in 18 years, but that's a pretty fast scale. What do you do goal wise?
Yeah, so I'm going to disappoint you. I used to write down the goals, but I kind of started doing something different. A couple years ago, I went and saw Tony Robbins, and I'm not going to say Tony Robbins changed my life, but he definitely inspired me. One, to be more accountable for myself. If you get in front of Tony Robbins, when you leave there, you're going to be more accountable. There's no blame to anybody. I don't blame any bad problem I have. I don't blame anybody. It's me. It's all on me, accountability. But he taught something at the seminar about having a 5-year vision, because we already are where we are today. So I promise you, I do this every single morning. There is 5 minutes of complete gratitude. And I just went through a hurricane. And I can tell you there's still after effects of emotions from this hurricane that just went through here. Very traumatic. But what I do in the morning is I envision where I am 5 years from now and what I want in my life. So I can tell you, if I went back 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I started this practice of sitting in the morning. I can't meditate because I'll fall asleep. Obviously, I'm pretty high energy when you guys get me all pumped up. So I literally sit there in the morning at 3 years ago and I say, look out at 5. But if you do this every morning, you almost get it into your subconscious that you're already living it. That's what Tony taught us. And I'm telling you, the things that I thought of 3 years ago was a 5-year plan. It was buying $100 million deal, which I bought a $75 million deal. It was traveling to different islands with my friends. This is so freaky, right? This is freaky. I'm going, not owning my own yacht, but renting a yacht and going out and having dinner in a hotel down in the Bahamas, traveling through Europe and doing these things. And I sit there every morning for at least 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm picturing where I'm going to be 5 years from now. And when I was doing that 3 years ago, now it hasn't hit 5 years, right? All these things started happening in 3 years. All this, living on an island. I thought it was going to be in the Bahamas, but I'm living on Siesta Key, which is an island. Going to dinner and taking my friends out, not out on my boat, but renting a boat and doing the BVI thing. Well, it got in my subconscious and I kind of had to buy this yacht because I had the money then after selling a couple of apartment buildings. And then the past 2 years, I went to Harbor Island this past year. 17 of my friends made it there. Neither one of you made the cut, but I promise you next year, you guys will make the cut. You guys will make the cut next year. I'm increasing it 2 more. So Christine will be able to come. So we'll increase that. So what my goal there is, it was 10 people the first year, which only 4 went. last year, my goal was 15, where 17 of my friends came in. Some went on the boat, some flew in, and we spent the week together on my yacht. We had a first mate and a cook. But my point is, it's really not everyday little goals. I'm more of a vision 5 years from now, where I want to be. And when I started thinking about this, it started as pictures where I wanted to be 5 years from now. But then when the pictures, you start seeing the pictures, but it almost turns into a movie. And I'm telling you, by doing this every single morning, it almost it got into my subconscious. Like I already had these things, and those things just started to happen.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Steve, because I was listening to a podcast for a lady. I forgot what her name was in the podcast because I listen to so many, but the lady was talking about a common thread, not with millionaires, but with billionaires. And that is exactly what the common thread was every morning, not just to have gratitude, but to have some time where you're closing your eyes and you're seeing where you're going and having that big vision, because your brain doesn't know reality from what you're creating in your mind. So you're literally materializing it, and you did it perfectly. And that story was awesome. Thank you for sharing.
And then I just add, once you start, it took me about 6 months to really get it down. It's not going to happen in a month. It takes time to practice. But I can tell you about 2 years ago, I started 5 years out of traveling Europe and traveling around the world. I just booked a cruise for 9 different countries next year. I think I'm hitting 13 or 14 different countries here.
Awesome.
So that was part of my vision from 2 years ago, but it's all being, implemented in action. I just want, my aunt and uncle raised me. And I just remember I put these little things down. My aunt and uncle raised me. And 3 weeks before my uncle died, he said, I always wanted to buy that Cadillac. And we're talking about 3 weeks of an 83-year-old. And he was, he had so many things to talk about and taught me so many things. But the last 3 weeks of his life, he keeps mentioning this. I always wish I would have bought that Cadillac. Make sure whatever you guys are doing in your life and what you want to see and do, make sure you go do it no matter what, because that day will come. The last months will come. And we here live with no regrets, but I promise you, I will see everything that I want to see. Somehow, some way, I will do it.
I appreciate how much you've laid out, like this whole morning routine that you do, and how powerful vision and visioning is for you. By the way, a couple of vocabulary words for those of us listening before we go to break. You talk all about these, I'm trying to think all the various things. You taught a whole bunch of things there. I'm like, wait a second, not every listener knows that, but I'm not sure if I remember some of them right now. But let me forget vocabulary word. Let me make sure everybody says hello to Dave Van Horn, who's a mutual friend of ours, and PPR No Co. We've had those guys on a bunch of times. And I do remember thinking about you two guys as really some of my role models and all of our role models as we build out accountable equity. So we appreciate everything I've learned from just watching you guys, and just the idea that not all investors are cut from the same cloth. That actually is something I definitely learned from watching you, because, growing up over the last 10 years of trying to learn how people want to invest, I perceived everybody was like me. Oh, you want to buy the building, fix up the building, and earn a lift on that, earn a profit for it. Well, a lot of investors would rather just have a steady check sometimes and a real fair return. And by the way, the other cool thing you taught us, which led to our philosophy of investing as well, is the idea of a collateralized asset that people are getting paid on monthly. Sometimes they don't even want all their money back. They just want to keep getting those steady payments. They want their money back when they need it back, but they don't necessarily want to have it sold next month, because then they got to deploy the money again and get as much money as they were getting. You opened my eyes to that, you and Dave Van Horn, over time. Thank you guys. It's changed the way we look at investment.
Yeah, you got to put it out there. There's, that's the greatest thing about real estate, notes and mortgages and people lending money. There's people that don't want to own the asset and do the work. They want to be passive investors. That's why whatever you need, just tell everybody about it, because there's going to be somebody that wants to get involved with you. And then if you do everything you say you're going to do, they're going to add people to it. And it's a process. It's all process. Everyone told me that I couldn't raise capital at 8%. I've raised over $100 million at 8%. I'm raising money at 6% now.
Steve, I want to dive a little bit into picking the right business partner. I know a lot of people out there get into partnerships and things go south. It seems all great in the beginning and then it doesn't go so great. And I've met Carrie multiple times. We're now also friends, and she's an amazing woman, and I know a great business partner for you, super sharp. I also know your story in that there wasn't always a great business partner or business partners. So can you speak a little bit to how you chose Carrie and how you guys have made such a great partnership?
Well, I think Carrie chose me.
Well, that's probably right.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think I could choose Carrie. She chose me. Actually, Carrie was, to keep it short, Carrie was at PPR, and I was doing stuff at Temple, and I left, and we became friends at PPR, and our chemistry was just kind of the same. She was in Westchester with 4 amazing children, and her husband, she lived down the street from me. She was traveling all the way to media, and I said, look, can we work together? And I have this idea, and it took her about 3 months for her to come. I begged her, I needed that. I know what I can do. Trust me, I don't try to do everything. I think everybody should do what they're really good at. I knew what I was good at. Carrie knew what she was good at. But when you're choosing a partner, look, she was the only person, I had a bad partner. I went $2.5 million in debt. I was at the lowest part of my life. I had a house in Wildwood, and I went that whole summer, and I didn't hang out with my friends one time, and it was a struggle to get out of bed. And Carrie kept saying, one bite out of the elephant. We're going to get through this one step. And it was really hard. I had to go to my investors, and unbelievably, they were okay with everything when I explained them the story. And they just said, Steve, we know we're going to pay it. Carrie said, one bite out of the elephant. And it comes down to integrity, right? I remember, we would make $50,000 on a deal. I would take a slice just to pay my bills, pay Carrie's bills, and we had to pay the investor. And that was the right thing to do. So, and then Carrie and I formed Stone Bay, and she took all the accounting and control of the employees. But the most important thing when choosing a partner or getting involved, it has to be the right vision together. Meaning, Carrie and I on charity, where we want to be. Neither of us, people see me on my yacht and my boat, but I don't have a 10,000 square foot house. Carrie doesn't have a 10,000 square foot house. We still live pretty much as blue collar people. People see me chasing dolphins, but I don't have all this extravagant stuff. John, when you come to visit me, right? What do I have? I got a boat, which is, it's a boat. And I got another boat, and that's what I do in my life. I mean, some girl, told me, she's like, you're the wealthiest, worst dressing person I've ever hung out, right? I just don't get my rocks off on that. I want to wear flip-flops, a t-shirt and shorts, and I want to die in them. I don't know, the next time I'll put on a suit. I think I have to wear one tomorrow night, but I kept on a suit when I left from Westchester. My new girlfriend is making me put on a suit tomorrow night, but I'm going to try to get out of wearing the tie. But when I came from Westchester, I only kept one suit in case I had to go to a funeral. And that's really the only reason I kept that thing. But, Carrie's been my rockin', but you have to be on the same page, the same goals and the same strategies. You have to help each other. I have to know. I'll give you an example. Carrie has been, just like I was at the beginning, we were bouncing from here to here on our rental units. Okay. And Carrie had to lug her shoes and her shorts and all her clothes from each unit. And she said to me 4 months ago, Steve, I'm tired. I really need my own place that we don't rent. Man, I'm on it, right? Because she's my everything, right? I got to make sure she does everything for me to make sure I'm happy when I'm not feeling good or I need something in my life. And I do the same for her. So I started searching, blah, 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 blah. Looked at a couple houses. We just put a house under a 8th floor condo on Lido Beach, looking at the Gulf of Mexico. We got city views. It's a 5-minute walk to St. Armand, but we're splitting it, right? We're splitting it. We're partners, but I'm not going to be there very often. Carrie's going to be there. But that's about, I know that she wanted something in her life, and I wanted to fulfill that for her, right? Because she's not living here right now. So I had to take action because I'm here. And I'm so happy that she's going to have her own place, and we're not, Edwin, you can't stay in it. When you come here, you're over in the slum part of Siesta Key, okay?
Hard to call it a slum project.
But, Dad, you got to have chemistry. But I want you to tell you this. All partnerships don't work out. And if it doesn't work out, walk away and don't hate each other. It didn't work out with me and PPR, but we've made millions together. It doesn't always work out, and it doesn't have to end in bad relationships. And, whenever there's a separation or a thing, I always go, this is a good thing that we're separating, right? This is a good thing that we're both going in our separation, because It doesn't always work, but if people could find a way to separate and help each other a little bit, that'd be great.
So, this has been a wonderful podcast. I'd love to do a couple other quick things since we get a guy on this podcast. We have you on the show that has done a lot of deals. You've looked at a lot of things. You've been through 2, if not 3 major cycles of the economy as an investor. What are some words of wisdom as we go into this time of a lot of change, a lot of interest rate change, deals look different, people expect different returns? What deals are you looking at these days? And what wisdom do you have to share with us as we look at the economy and looking for deals?
Yeah, look, I mean, we're going to talk ourselves into a recession. I mean, this is frustrating. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, interest rates went up, but all I do is every time I hear people talking, we're going into a recession. I mean, it's like the verbiage is almost talking into a recession, right? It's ridiculous. But look, we knew that we had an upside that was unbelievable, couldn't last forever. So there has to be the yin yang. It has to come down. Numbers don't lie, right? Just be careful in what you do. Give yourself a little cushion. If you own real estate or if you own a couple businesses, sell one of them. Sell 1 or 2 pieces of your real estate. I built up a lot of cash. I went to my apartment building partners 9 months ago. I said, guys, we need to sell a couple of these things, and they're like, no, we're going to own these for the next 5 or 7 years. And I kept telling them, look, we got to sell some of this. Let's cash out a little bit. So we ended up selling four apartment buildings, and I closed another mobile home park next week. So sit on some cash. You can take your time. You don't have to buy a deal. It's what we do, but watch the stock market. It's not, I don't feel that, you can't fight the Fed down and you can't fight the Fed up, but there's always deals out there. You just have to work a little bit harder, but don't give up all your cash. Make sure you have a good amount of cash on the side, 30%, somewhere in there, to be careful, because I don't think we're through this yet. But I'm doing a $4 million loan with somebody, but I'm making sure there's a cushion there. I'm buying another condo illegal. I'm buying it for $1,350,000. Next year is probably going to be $1,100,000. I don't know, but I'm not going to stop buying assets because we're in a cycle, and you want to have some firepower if this really comes through in the next 6 to 9 months. Remember, if we're talking real estate, okay, we're talking real estate, it's always a 6 to 9 month lagger to the equity market. So I don't think there's going to be a correction in real estate, but just factor in maybe, I don't think it's, look, I'm pretty good at doing this. I've been successful at it, maybe lucky, but just give yourself a cash cushion. I think after the first of the year, January or February, you're going to know where we stand. You're going to know if there's a bigger correction. Just remember, buying a $900,000 house at 3% mortgage rate and buying a $900,000 house at the 7% interest rate is a different payment in the month. So there has to be give and take. So just be the entrepreneur that you are. But remember, you don't have to be the aggressive entrepreneur all the time. So maybe just pace yourself, still do some deals, maybe just slow down a little bit, and we'll be able to go really hard at the end of next year.
Yeah, Steve, that is great advice because, I know for myself, for you, for Josh, for a lot of entrepreneurs listening, when it's funny, when you see your bank account increasing, that actually makes us as entrepreneurs a little nervous because we're like, oh, well, we need to deploy this capital because it has to make money for us, right? I get very nervous and it's a blessing, but I want to deploy it by the next thing. But I think that your advice right there, that cash is actually a position. All right.
Are you getting me all pumped up? I have to interrupt you. I've heard this bullshit line that I got to spend my cash because of inflation. Now, I didn't say to sit on $300,000 or $500,000 or $1 million for the next 4 years. I said, just slow down and be cautious and don't have powder for opportunity. I'm telling you, people were calling when I said I was in 30% cash 5 months ago. I got all these your inflation's eating away your cash. I'm like, I'm not buying anything I'm just taking a little break. Inflation isn't going to take me broke in the next 6 months. Yeah, inflation's a little higher. I spend a little bit more money over the next 6 months, but we'll know where we are.
Yeah.
Cash is king, man. And I'm telling you, you think I've done well up to this point, and I can tell you, I'm kicking ass. We are really, some people say it, but we fucking are.
Listen, I'm telling. I got to believe that you and I are doing our first deal next week together. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this, right? I mean, let's freaking go. But I am also being cautious, but active, but careful and paying attention. Don't be the aggressive guy and go all in right now. It does come to an end. That's what I heard. This is the Bitcoin's going to a billion. Whoa. You know, real estate's going, apartment buildings are going to, $9,000 a door. Like, that's all bullshit. So you get me crazy, right? So just pace yourself. There's nothing wrong with taking 3 or 4 months to watch the market. We still got 30 or 40 years to make deals. Well, some of them.
Oh, I love that. What a great perspective on that.
But let me just real quick, just for some of your viewers, what we talked about is have that vision for 5 years. Have that vision for next year. Today's already done. It's done. The next month is done. Adapt or die. If you're not willing to adapt with a situation, and believe me, when you're in a bad situation that's telling you something, to get out and let it go. I used to be the entrepreneur when I was doing bad on a real estate deal. I'd start plugging I am not going to fail. I am not going to fail. It's like butter on a stripper pole, right? You got butter on the pole and you just go anywhere, right? So that bad deal I had, I finally let it go. And how much money did it save me over the last 2 years that I was pumping $5,000 in that thing a month. Let the bad go. There will be a new beginning and it will be better. Bring that to people. You can't call me and say, hey, Steve, I want to get involved with you. No, what value I don't need you, but what can you do for me? And I will teach you what I know. But will you do what I did to have what I have today, right? Yeah. I want to do what you do, Steve. Do you want to do what I did to do what I do? Most people don't, right? But you got to go all in at 7 days a week. Communication. If you are in trouble, if you have problems, call your other entrepreneur friends and let them know you're struggling. Don't be the hero. Don't keep it all in. Keeping it in will destroy you. You have to let your problems out. I got situations. I got problems. This isn't no fairy tale. We got real life going on all the time. I just went through a hurricane. You guys didn't even ask me how I made it through the hurricane. All you want to know is all my secrets. Steve, you survived. Is the boat okay?
Dude, how many texts you got from me, bro?
Like, did you lose a pair of your flip-flops? No, just one of your secrets, Steve. So it's
to make sure your Airbnbs are intact. So
yeah, fine, John. The boat's okay for when you come back. Lord Beth Lloyd was alive. We didn't lose any. We didn't lose the fly bridge or anything. Your bedroom's still good on Siesta Key. But culture. Create a culture. You two are amazing at it. Creating what you did at Renault. You got a culture, man. You show me those videos. Keep those videos coming. Walk around. I got freaking balloons flying here. I got fire pits going on. We got pumpkins coming up. We got ice skating things coming up. I might even leave the 80-degree Florida weather to come ice skate at your place, my friend. I'm coming there. I promise you this winter, I'm making a stop at the fairy tale world where everybody should go and visit and have a glass of wine and put on some ice skates. But go carve some pumpkins. And I know that carving pumpkin, that carving pumpkin contest coming up.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, he's all over this stuff. You're so kind, buddy. What a great public service.
I'm following you, man. I'm watching. I watch both of you. I watch successful people. I watch good, kind, caring people that create culture and want a better life for other people, not only themselves. That's the train that we got to get everybody on. There's so much negativity. Don't bring me with negativity. Bring me with solutions to the problems. Don't call me with the problem. Bring me the solution. But we need everybody to help each other. We can't do this on our own. Get up before 7 o'clock, before 6 o'clock, and get that body moving. I get crazy. I know I don't love crazy, but I have such a crazy passion. It's hard, right? But what's this country made up of? We're made up of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Right? That runs this United States of America. Just one thing, and I'm going to let you go. You guys are going to let me go. I'm dating a girl named Rydia Van Ness. She came here at like 14 years older, might be off on that. But I don't know if it was you, John, or I was with another set of couples that I was with. She's a criminal defense attorney, owns about $7 million of real estate, been a single mom for 10 years, paid for all their colleges. And she came here with her parents at like 14 and went to college, got the law degree. Her kids are amazing in their 20s. So this immigrant has created all this, right? but someone, and she's got a passport she's been to Italy 5 times. She's been to Germany. She's been all through Europe. Okay. Many, many times. And this guy was sitting there at the table. We were eating dinner. And she said, he goes, if there was anywhere in the world, where would you want to live? I promise you, she got tears in her eyes. And she goes, all those places are beauty, but there's only one United States of America. There's only one country that's made up of all entrepreneurs that drive this amazing America. And we all should be proud of ourselves. And that's why we all need to help each other. But sometimes it takes an outsider like her who came from another country to tell us how amazing it is, because so many Americans take it for granted. She loves paying taxes. She goes, the more taxes I pay, the better this country is going to be, the better the roads are going to be, the better everything is going to be. She said within reason, but we hear of all these. We want to go to Italy. We want to go to Amsterdam. We want to go to Switzerland. We want to go to Germany. But she goes, United States of America, with proud and tears in her eyes. So God bless America.
God bless America.
Hey, buddy. I mean, I know this is public, gift you always just give to us by being on these shows and doing masterminds with us. Is there a way people can follow you, though? Because I think people would love to see more Steve Lloyd. Are there, what's the follow up with you?
I don't know any of that stuff. They can find me on Facebook. I do my Facebook. I know there's Steve Lloyd business page, or I don't know, CCS the key. John, you might know. I don't know.
But find me. Let's say own bet.
Go to Facebook,
CCSthekey.com.
What's that?
It's at CCSthekey.com.
Are you on that?
Yeah, but you can find me on Facebook, and then IM me if you want more information. If you want me, you can find me. It's that easy. The hot blonde, the hot brunette. If you want them, you'll go find. It's that easy.
All right. You're the best, buddy.
Man,
Until next time, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Cheers, Steve. Love you, brother.
I'm so sad. Thanks for letting me go off for an hour. Love you too.
Cheers.
I don't want to go.
Damn straight. We just got
buddy.
We got to the end of another great show. And everyone listening right now, you're the family and friends. Thanks for staying till the end.
That was so fun. And hey, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're here to serve you guys. That's why we're doing this show. Josh is not paying me. I'm doing this off of my quote unquote sweat equity, because we want to make a difference in your life. And then that ripple effect will continue to touch the world.
Hey, amen, brother. Please check us out on capitalhacking.com, all the social media threads. And yes, I know you've probably already sent this episode to one of your best friends. Thank you. We love you. Just go right into your iPhone, hit the plus symbol. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.
Share.